Land Cruiser has dominated Australian roads for decades. Big, tough, unstoppable. But right now, something is coming out of China that wants that crown badly. This is the Denza B8, a full-size, 7-seat plug-in hybrid SUV with genuine off-road credentials, a cabin that embarrasses vehicles costing twice the price, and a starting point of around $91,000 on Australian roads. That's not a typo. And yes, it's absolutely gunning for the Land Cruiser. But before we get into it, if you're new here, subscribe to RLC Auto channel and hit that bell icon. Set it to all, because every review we put out is honest, unbiased, and built for Australian buyers, not sponsored fluff. Now, let's talk about the Denza B8. Exterior design. The moment this thing rolls into view, you feel it before you even process it. The Denza B8 is enormous, not just big SUV enormous, genuinely fill your rearview mirror, dominate the car park enormous, and it wears that size with real confidence. The proportions are bold and deliberate, a stretched wheelbase, increased width, extra length, all of it engineered to house 3 genuine rows of seating without making the third row feel like a punishment. This isn't a vehicle that grew by accident. It was designed from the ground up to be a statement. Up front, you get matrix LED headlights that give the B8 a premium, almost intimidating face. The grille is wide and assertive. The stance is commanding. Sitting on 20-inch wheels, it looks planted, purposeful, and expensive, because it is. This isn't a cheap import trying to look flashy. The surfacing is clean, the panel gaps are tight, and the overall presentation is genuinely flagship grade. But here's where the numbers start telling a very different story. The Denza B8 tips the scales at 3,290 kilograms. Let that sink in. 3,290 kilos. In Australia, the only production vehicles that weigh more are heavy-duty American trucks, your Ram 2500s, your Silverado 2500s. This is not a light truck pretending to be an SUV. This is a proper, serious machine with serious mass. Now that weight brings some serious capability with it. You're looking at a braked towing capacity of 3.5 tons and a gross vehicle mass of 3,992 kilograms. Those are genuinely impressive figures, and they open doors for Australian families who tow caravans, boats, or trailers. But, and this is important, the payload sits at 702 kilograms. That means once you load up 6 or 7 adults and a boot full of gear for a long-haul trip, you're eating into that number fast. If you're planning big outback adventures with a full house, you'll need to do the math carefully. This isn't a deal-breaker, but it's a real-world consideration that Australian buyers absolutely cannot ignore. Interior and features. Step inside the Denza B8 and whatever expectations you walked in with, raise them, because this cabin doesn't just compete with vehicles at this price point, it goes toe-to-toe with SUVs costing dramatically more. The entry-level 7S trim sets the tone immediately. You're greeted by leather seats up front with electric adjustment, heating, ventilation, memory function, and massage. Not just heating, not just adjustment, massage in the base model. The second row carries that same theme, electric adjustment, heating, and ventilation. These are features that some luxury European brands reserve for their flagship trims, and Denza is handing them out at entry level. Dominating the dashboard is a 17.3-inch infotainment display. That's not a small screen dressed up to look large. That's genuinely, physically enormous, and it's crisp, fast, and intuitive. Alongside it sits a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster. 3-zone climate control keeps every section of the cabin at its own temperature. An 18-speaker sound system fills the space with audio that actually sounds like it belongs in a luxury vehicle. And the third row? Electrically deployable. No awkward folding, no wrestling with heavy seats. A button does the work. Now step up to the top-spec 6S, and the B8 shifts from impressive to genuinely remarkable. Captain's chairs replace the second-row bench, wrapped in Napa leather that feels every bit as premium as the name suggests. A heads-up display projects critical information directly into your eye line. Night vision gives you awareness in the dark that your high beams alone simply can't match. Electric leg rests in the second row, adjustable seat bolstering, multi-row massage, and then a powered fridge, one that doubles as a heater, built into the cabin. This is the kind of feature list you'd expect from a Mercedes GLS or a Range Rover Sport, vehicles pushing $200,000 or more in Australia. The Denza B8 is packaging all of this for under $100,000, and that is a genuinely extraordinary proposition for the Australian market. The build quality backs it up, too. The soft-touch surfaces are where you expect them. The switchgear has weight and precision. The ambient lighting is sophisticated, not garish. And the sense of space, especially in the first and second rows, is genuinely first class. Performance and driving experience. Under all that luxury, the Denza B8 is hiding a seriously capable powertrain. It uses a 2.0-liter turbocharged petrol engine working in concert with a 36.8 kilowatt-hour battery pack and electric motors at both axles. The combined output is 425 kilowatts and 760 newton-meters of torque. In a vehicle this size, that's not just adequate, that's quick. And you feel it. Push the throttle with intent, and the B8 surges forward with a decisiveness that genuinely surprises. There's no lag, no hesitation, no moment where the weight betrays the power. The transition between electric and petrol power is seamless, smooth enough that most of the time you won't even notice it happening. Around town, the electric system does a lot of the heavy lifting, keeping the drive refined and efficient. On the open road, the petrol engine steps up with quiet authority. Speaking of quiet, the interior insulation in this vehicle is exceptional. Denza has clearly invested heavily in sound insulation because at highway speeds, the B8 wraps you in a hush that's more luxury limousine than family SUV. Wind noise is well managed, road noise is suppressed. The powertrain is virtually silent under light loads. If refinement is on your checklist, tick it twice. The steering is precise, sharper than you'd expect from a 3.3-ton vehicle. It gives you a reasonable sense of connection without being fidgety. Hydraulic active suspension works hard to keep the body composed through corners, and for the most part, it succeeds.
Before we go any further, if you're interested in mastering YouTube content creation with AI tools, we have a course built specifically to transform the way you create. Join our AI YouTube content creation course today. Accelerate your growth, and you can even book a live one-on-one power session directly with us, where we guide you personally every step of the way. This is your unfair advantage. Get the link in the video description and take the leap today.
The B8 doesn't wallow or lean with the drama you might expect from something this heavy. But the ride, here's where Australia throws the first punch back. On smooth, sealed roads, the B8 is composed and comfortable, but take it onto rough outback surfaces, corrugated dirt tracks, or even the kind of broken bitumen that peppers regional Australian roads, and that suspension stiffness becomes noticeable. The B8 can feel jittery, unsettled, like a heavyweight baxer who moves brilliantly on the canvas but struggles on cobblestones. It's not harsh enough to ruin long trips, but it's a contrast to the cloud-like compliance you might expect from a vehicle this plush. The driver assist suite is comprehensive, almost to a fault. Lane keeping, driver monitoring, collision warnings, speed sign recognition. All of it is present and technically impressive, but the calibration can be overzealous. The driver monitoring system in particular can become intrusive, alerting you unnecessarily, pulling your attention away from the road rather than keeping it there. It's the kind of thing firmware updates can fix, but right now, in the real world, it's a friction point. Off-road, the Denza B8 brings genuine hardware to the conversation. Front and rear locking differentials, low-range transfer case, multiple terrain modes. This is not a soft roader wearing a tough costume. It has the mechanicals to back up its rugged ambitions. And in controlled off-road scenarios, it performs with confidence. Articulation is decent, approach and departure angles are workable, and the powertrain delivers smooth, controllable power on loose surfaces. But that 3,230 kilogram curb weight is always there. Always. In deep sand, the B8 works harder than a Land Cruiser. On steep descents with a full load, the mass demands more respect. It's capable, genuinely capable, but it doesn't carry that capability with the effortless ease of a purpose-built off-road icon. The Land Cruiser has 70 years of desert-tested evolution behind it. The B8 is chapter 1 of that story, and it's a strong opening. Price, value, and final verdict. Here's where the Denza B8 throws its most powerful punch. The 7S starts at approximately $91,000 plus on-road costs. The top-spec 6S sits at $97,990 plus on-roads. For what you get, the technology, the power, the luxury, the capability, those numbers are almost confronting. A comparable Land Cruiser, well north of $100,000 and climbing fast with options. A Lexus GX, similar money for considerably less technology. A Ford Everest Platinum, more modest on features. A Range Rover Sport, double the price. The B8 sits in a segment where it competes on paper with these names, but undercuts them sharply on price, while matching and in some areas exceeding them on specification.